So I had a guy ask me literally today. He says, where do you find all your parts for these old three-wheelers? I got one, I can't find any parts. That's a tough question. It really is. You can't always rely on the norm or the usual. Let me tell you how this went down. So I was on the marketplace, which I spend way too much time on marketplace. Here's being creative for parts. This machine takes 3 brackets to hold the rear fender and seat assembly on. I couldn't find them, and I know some folks, you know what I mean? I reached out, I shook some trees, and I was like, hey guys, does anybody have brackets? I found fenders, I found entire machines, I couldn't find any brackets. The fenders I found didn't have any brackets. I really thought that was going to be the easiest fix. You know, just find some fenders that already had brackets on them, buy those, ride those fenders a while, and that is a great option. I've done that option. The 86, we did that. We got used fenders that had brackets, you know, that helped. And so that is an option, but this was a little sneakier option, if you will. I was on Marketplace and I was scrolling through there and I found a beautiful 84 250R for sale. And I was like, wow, that is nice. Wonder if he's got any more parts. So I messaged him. I said, hey man, that is a nice looking 84 you got there. I said, do you happen to have any parts for that same machine that, you know, you're not using? And just like we've talked about it before, these three-wheelers, they kind of multiply. They're like gremlins. It's like getting one of them little gremlins wet and you turn around and you've got 10 of them behind you. That's just how it is. Well, this guy had built this 84 and did a great job of it, but he ended up buying 2 or 3 84s to get all the parts he needed to restore that one. And he said, what are you looking for? And I said, well, you know, the 2 front brackets to hold the fender and the seat and all that together? He said, yeah. He said, I said, I need those. He said, let me see what I got. And he messaged me the next day. Now, those are hard to find. I talked to no less than 20 people looking for these brackets the traditional way. eBays, Honda Hoarders, Facebook groups, you know, many Facebook groups, specialized Facebook groups. And these brackets, nobody wants to get rid of because you can't find them. And I found that out the hard way. But because I was a little more resourceful than the average person, I met somebody that already was into this particular model that had extra parts laying around. Because I was resourceful and kind of thinking outside the box, I found parts that weren't listed for sale, which already makes them cheaper. And I found a guy that had them. He knew exactly what I was talking about. And now we have both sides of the bracket that we're going to need to mount up our seat. So it's a win for finding hard to find parts. But just as an example, to answer that question, sometimes you got to think out of the box to find loose parts. I appreciate it. Thank you very much for selling these to me. You know who you are. All right, well, welcome back, fellas. Got the 250R 84 Honda 250R back in the shop. I know this is what we worked on last week, but I'm chomping at the bit to try to. I want to see it move. I want to let out the clutch. I want to see something. I want that next step, that next fix, if you will. If you build things and you work on things, it's the work and the reward that keeps me going. And that's kind of what I wanted to talk about a little bit today, about planning out your project. When you start a project, you need to have a plan. You need to have an idea. And I really enjoy putting pen to paper and writing down what that plan is. It allows me to maximize the time that I actually have in the shop. When I get out here, I know exactly what I'm going to do most days. And that keeps me on target, and it makes, if I've only got an hour, I get the most out of that hour out in the shop. Maybe 2 hours, you know, whatever it is that particular day. But if I didn't have that plan, I think I would come out and probably just get kind of lost in the clutter, lost in the process, if you will. A lot of these projects are long-term and some of them are short-term. And so when starting a project, and I had a guy ask me the very question today. He's just found an old Honda. He drug it out of the woods somewhere, and he wanted to know where to start. And it got me thinking of how I would answer that question. It's a lot like how I kind of start my Will It Runs. I mean, that's as live as I can make it, y'all. It's really the steps I go through. I do every one of them exactly the same way, and I let the machine, whatever it is, kind of dictate, you know, where I need to go and what's next. I always start with spark. If I get spark easy, then great, then I go on to the next thing. But when you have a project of this scope, you know, something that's just been neglected for literally decades, I think it's important to kind of give yourself some wins along the way so you don't get burned out. It would really be easy. Somebody like me, I know me pretty well, I would get burned out really quick if every day I went out to the shop or the garage and I didn't get some type of reward. Personally, that's just one of the worst things ever. You just feel like you're beating your head against the wall. So when you're picking out your project, think about those things. Think about what your skill level is. I mean, I test myself every day, it seems like. A lot of the stuff that y'all have seen on this channel is first for me. This is the first time I've ever experienced a welded on chain or a cylinder that had no compression, that was just built with new rings and a hone and everything. I mean, those are first time challenges that we all are gonna face, and included, you know, seasoned people. It's just part of it. And so you got to take those kinds of setbacks in stride. Again, when you have a project, set small goals, achieve those goals, and you will be more excited about your project. You know, we did a Willet run on this and we got it running, but that's a big goal for a lot of little goals. The first goal was find spark, and we did that. The next goal was find compression, and we did that. And so each time we hit one of our marks, we feel better about the project moving forward. We're more excited about the project, and that's what keeps people like us going. I mean, if you're watching this channel and you've been watching this channel, you know that we are like-minded people. We like mechanical things. We like bringing things back from the dead. There's a satisfaction that comes from that I really can't place into words. Take your projects and break them down into small steps. Small, achievable goals. And every time you go out to the shop, you take one of those goals and you go, I'm going to do this tonight. And then the next night, next opportunity you get to come out to the shop, I'm going to do this. And you continue to do small goals like that. Before you know it, you will have a running, driving vehicle or whatever you're working on, whether it's a house or a car or a three-wheeler or whatever. I still take that same approach to everything that I work on. And so I'm trying to pass that on to you. That's my way of doing it. It might not work for you. There's guys out here that would blow this thing down to the frame and they powder coat it and send it off, and they'd send the motor somewhere else and they'd have a professional build it. And when they get all the parts back, they assemble it, and that's how they do it. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's just a different way of doing it. I take things from a different point of view. I take everything from a dollars and cents kind of mindset. And I think there's a lot of people that do that. You know, this is not how I earn my living. This is not something that I can just spend a ton of money on and take that money out of my household. I have to be mindful about what I'm spending. And that's why there's always a give and take. You're going to see me use non-OE parts at times, and then you're going to see me search out the correct OE part. And this machine is just a perfect example of that. There are some parts that you have to have. Case in point is the seat brackets. We got our seat brackets in today. We got our two front brackets and our rear bracket. You're not riding this without brackets. You can go order fenders if you want, but they're not going to hook on here without brackets. That is a pretty specific part. Could I have just shot some screws and some plastic and some 55-gallon drum barrels and you know, a seat cushion from the couch? Yeah, I could do that, but that's not what I'm about. I want it to look right. I want it to be right, within reason. Am I going to put OE brake pads on this? No, I'm just going to put some inexpensive brake pads. Why? Because I'm not going to ride it every single day. You know, I'm just being honest with myself. I'm going to ride it as much as I can, but I've got several other machines that need to be ridden too. So I can take the money that I save there and I can kind of move it over to something else. You know, we talked about the non-OE master cylinder. I'm not ashamed of that at all. It's a good looking master cylinder. It looks like the OE one, and they work. I've used them before. It's a reputable company. Is it OE quality? That's, you know, I'm not going to argue that. I have no way of proving it one way or the other. Will it last as long as I enjoy this machine? Yeah, it probably will. So That being said, when you take a project on, break it down into small steps. You're going to have small victories that will win you the war when it's done, and you will be able to finance those expenditures a lot easier if you do them in small steps instead of just ordering a ton of stuff at one time, you know, and then, oh my goodness, how am I going to pay for all of that? Do it in small steps. I have not ordered a rear fender for this. Why? Because I don't need a rear fender to ride it across the yard. That's my next hurdle for this machine. Today I've got front bearings. We're going to clean up the forks. We got fork boots on here. We got a new tire. We're going to bleed the master cylinder. Tonight, my goal when I come out to the shop is I'm going to finish this front end, and it's going to be, you know, that much further along in the process. Could I have ordered fenders? I could have, but I know that those fenders are $400 or $380. I think is the last ones I looked at. Those are Mayer aftermarket, brand new rear fenders. That's what I'm going to end up having because it's going to match the front fender that I already have. So I'm just pushing that off until the end. We will ride this, and you know, we may find other problems with it before I need to spend that $380. We may find something that needs to be addressed before we need fenders. And so that's how I take a project. That's just an example of any project I tackle is always through those glasses, if you will. Is it going to benefit the project as a whole? Tonight, let's take care of the front end. Guys, well, that kind of wraps up tonight. I don't know if this will be the end of the video or not, so stay tuned for a few more seconds and you'll know yourself. The front end's done. Took me a little while to bleed the brakes. I did have to go down the bleeder. There is a bleeder on the top of this caliper. Be sure your bleeders always point up, always. Whatever you're working on. If it's hydraulic brakes, that bleeder has to be at the top of the caliper. If you ever invert that caliper or on a car, take the right and left and switch them, your bleeders end up on the bottom. They will never bleed. So that's a little tip for you. Front end's done. We'll straighten the handlebars out before we ride it. Forks are set, brakes are on. We've got our fork boots on. Hey, I want you to know that you can pick these up at 223 Cycles. Curtie actually has a whole line of stuff beyond carburetors. So I think that's his new tagline, beyond carburetors. He does great carburetors, but he's also a great source for levers and fork boots and rebuild kits and just all kinds of stuff. So be sure and check him out. It's 223cycles.net. He'll hook you up, get you exactly what you need. But that's it. That's kind of what I started this video out. Small steps, small bites, become a big total project real soon. The front end is done. We put bearings in and we greased them. They're sealed, but we greased all those parts down there. We put new brake pads in. I'll put the links to all these parts down in the description if you need them. We went ahead and put a new tire. Tire that came on it was shot, so we had to put a tire on it. Clean the brakes up, clean the forks up. Don't they look good? These forks turned out so good. So much better than that big rusty mess we started with. Now you can just keep WD-40 in these, and that'll keep the color, the rust color from coming back. But man, they just look so much better. We got our new master cylinder, finally got it bled. We got our old lever here, so we retain the look. New line, and that's the original caliper. I'm hesitant to use a bleeder. A lot of times I'll just sit there and just work the air out. If you're working the air out on a master cylinder, just go real slow. When you squeeze it, just barely squeeze it real slow. You get a lot more air out of the system. The reason I'm hesitant to mess with a bleeder is because I ruined a 250R caliper one time just by taking the bleeder out. I took the bleeder out, it stripped. I had to get the rest of it out. I ended up picking at it and poking at it, and I ended up drilling it out, thinking I could retap it, and what a mess. I mean, I destroyed that caliper. So I'm always very leery about these old bleeders. They're steel bleeders in an aluminum housing, and they just you know, be careful. All I can tell you is be extra careful when it comes to those bleeders. Do not put an impact on them at all. But that's it. One night, front end is done. If we get that carrier in the mail here pretty soon, we'll knock that back out. We do the same thing. We'll set the brakes up on that, and we'll be riding. We will be ready to go across the yard. I don't know that we'll set any lap records or anything yet, but we'll definitely want fenders in a seat for that. But it's coming along, and this is it. It's just small little steps just like this. Y'all can do it, basic hand tools. If you've never done it before, download the manual. It's free. Read it. Sit in front of the TV and read the manual. I do that all the time. I refresh myself of what parts are involved in the next project. And that way when I get out there, I'm like, oh yeah, I saw that, and I remember this, and I saw that piece. And it just makes your shop time that much more productive because you've done a little homework. Let's not call it that because nobody likes homework. But if you're stuck inside or in a meeting or something, or I don't know, whatever you do, but if you've got a little time and you can read that manual, you can put it on your phone. I mean, you don't have to print it out. Just keep it on your phone. Keep it digital. I got my phone with me. I can pull up anything I need at any time here in the shop. You can do the same thing and refresh yourself. Get accustomed to what the parts look like, what order they go on, and you will be amazed at how much you can get done in a very short amount of time in the shop or in the garage. All right, guys, this is kind of a UPS miracle. I ordered a part on Saturday night, and I mean like night, 8, 9 o'clock. It's Wednesday. It's here. You know, the modern world. Who would have thought? We have a carrier. That is the last component, I think, to make this thing run. I don't know if we'll get to riding it tonight. So the front's done. It's ready to ride. We did fight the rust really bad. Probably by the time you see this video, you'll understand why these forks are so deep, how deep I have them set in the triple tree. If you don't know, this line right here is the actual mark, and it's supposed to be right there, right at the very edge of the upper triple tree. But as you see, I've raised these up a total of 2 inches over stock or under stock. That'll make more sense a little bit later on. But anyways, I think we have everything we need. I could not find an OE carrier. I did find an aftermarket carrier. I mean, this thing is aftermarket as aftermarket gets. There's no names on the box. There's nothing. It's, you know, is it gonna last? I don't know. It didn't even come with a snap ring. Wow, that is pretty bad. Okay, so hopefully we can reuse the old snap ring. Good thing we didn't break that. So, you know, you get what you pay for sometimes, and honestly, it's the only carrier I found for this machine, so I don't know if it's going to fit or not. It could be mislabeled. Who knows? We're going to find out. It's not one of the companies I normally deal with. So anyways, I'm going to put you on time lapse. I want to get to work and I'm going to rock out. We're going to turn some tunes on. I've had a long day already, but I wanted to see if this carrier was going to work. That's test one. A little smoky, but it's a test. If we look close, minus the smoke, the stay actually bolts here and then goes long over this direction. This is our factory bracket. We were able to source this bracket here. I've got to get this bushing. I don't have it, but I did want to test the brakes. Aftermarket rear master, aftermarket line. Got our carrier in place. Sprockets, chain is loose. As you see, you could hear it slapping a little bit. When I would give it a little gas and it would let off, it would make a little slap sound there. So I don't know. We might not be out of the woods yet, but it cranks on a couple of kicks, and the clutch is not engaging. You can put it in gear and it will go. You can pull the clutch in and it will shift gears, but it will not, the clutch won't stop it from pulling. So still got a long way to go, but we are really close. I think a couple more nights we will have it up and presentable, and my goodness, is it smoky in here. There you go. So will it move? Yeah, it'll move. We got to figure out that transmission issue though. I'm going to try to adjust it. More than likely it's probably just stuck. I wouldn't be surprised if it was just locked up in there and doesn't have a whole lot of slip to it. Might be one of those things where you just get out and kind of putt around the yard a little bit and get the engine good and hot, and it'll come back to us. That's what we're gonna hope for. I'm gonna get the engine hot. We're gonna dump the oil out of it. We're gonna put transmission fluid back in its place instead of oil. And then that, I will do that before we try pulling the clutches. If we can change the transmission fluid and get that in there, and that works in those clutches and kind of gets them freed up, then you know, we may still be okay. Brakes work. So what's happening is our clutch is not disengaging. It engaged, but it doesn't want to disengage. Interesting. I've never run across that before. I know Preston had a 350X that happened. Clutch was locked up. He actually took it for a ride and broke it free. We'll see about that. We'll see if I'm that froggy. It'll be tomorrow though. I'm gonna fire it back up. We're gonna keep playing with it. I think honestly, when something's been sitting this long and this neglected, it's just gonna take time. It's gonna take run time to bring all the systems back like they were supposed to. You see, it starts right back up now, and that's kind of what I'm talking about. Is that these systems, as you get them limbered up again and start working properly, they'll come back around a lot of times. We may end up having to put a clutch in it. I mean, if that's what it is, that's what it is. But look at where we've come. We've got functioning brakes front and rear. We've got new bearings, a new carrier in the rear, new bearings in the front, new front brake pads on the original caliper. We've got a new aftermarket caliper with pads. We were able to source out our original strut bar that we needed here, and this bracket here. That's all from, you know, friends of the family. You know, basically this is all from fellow three-wheeler people. Our seat brackets are in. They're up top here, and this one here in the back. I mean, that's what it's about, and that's part of the fun, is sourcing and tracking down these parts. I mean, you're just not going to go down to AutoZone and pick them up. You know what I'm saying? So you gotta know that going in. Be prepared for that, and it won't make you mad. You know, it won't be a detriment to the project. You just know that that's the next piece you got to find. It's like a puzzle, except you got to source all the pieces. So I'm going to stick this on the end of the video I've already shot, kind of give y'all a payday. I wanted to get this out to you as soon as possible. I'm excited about it. It's just the first phase, you know. Let's get this clutch straightened out, and I think we'll be able to go for a ride. I don't see why not. I'm gonna have to find something to sit on, but we'll figure that out sooner than later. We got tires coming too. These tires, I had somebody write in, they said, you should use those tires. That's those tires. They are bad off. This one's actually even worse. They're bad, and they're flat. They're that cracked flat. Let me put some air in them. You can see to them. All right, thank y'all so much. Appreciate it. Hope you enjoyed it. You know, welcome 84 to the family. We got to name it. I like to name my machines. They're not all named, but I do like that. So we're going to have to come up with a name for that one. Trouble. That's what it's going to be, probably. All right. Y'all take care. Have a great night. Thanks for watching.